Hello guys and welcome on my YouTube channel. So I am finally created my Twitter account, so sometimes I will post information here about new videos, and I just decided why not to integrate Salesforce with Twitter for that purpose. So I started to investigate in terms of the Twitter what is required for us to be able to post tweets from the Salesforce to Twitter, and I actually find out that there are a couple of authorization methods which exist at this moment. It's OAuth, but you could see it's with a code, right? Which one? And OAuth 1.0a, which is like more how it's called, more secure one, right, than just 1.0. So then here we have requirements around what kind of scope is required for us to be able to perform necessary operations. Like, for example, we have at this moment in terms of tweets read and write, and in terms of users, for example, read. It's in terms of if you are authorized with authorization to out 2.0, right? Because with authorization 1.0a, you have the different, let's say, scope, right? And you could test actually and see what you need to have access to, right? And configure right authorization appropriately. So later you have here different kind of parameters, examples of payload, and so on and so forth. So you could read through this documentation to be able to understand, like how the actual integration should look like, what should be the endpoint, what should be authorization. So once you, let's say, got in your head some kind of basic understanding of what is possible to do, you could actually go and register your developer Twitter account. So once you register your Twitter account, you will be able to see that here is a default project created for you with some limit around the number of posts that you could publish every month. So then once you will click on that project, you will be able to see your environment's details in terms of the usage, and then you will be able to go to the view details, and from here you will be able to see some kind of what are the limitation for you, as for example if you're using free account, how many of requests you could use per 24-hour period. Like for example at this moment we could see that at this moment we could just use 50 requests per 24 hours. So then, like why you observe the basic information, what is possible to do, it's we could go to our application details related to that project and specify the name and icon for it. And we will get, based on it, application ID. So once we get all of this information, what we need to do is we really need to go to user notification settings and make sure that we specify it here read and write access, at least, right, for us to be able to post tweets through this application to the Twitter. So then we could decide what kind of type we will use. Like for example, in our case, it's a web application. What kind of callback URL we should use. What is our website URL and our organization name. So once we specified all this information, what we will be able to do is we will be able to go to the keys and tokens section, and from there we will be able to regenerate all our basic information which is required for us to be able to authorize with basic authorization or to authorize with OAuth 2.0. So once we've done all this information captured, we could go to actually to Postman. And in the Postman, what we could do is we could play a little bit with already existing collection. You could see this collection contains a lot of different kind of information, and I've decided to use manage tweets chapter, right? And from there I just created copy of created tweet. So from there, what is important for us? It's I decided to use for my authentication OAuth 1.0 for me to be able to perform necessary operations. I am putting here what is my signature method, and I am putting consumer key, consumer secret, access token, and token secret. So once it's done, and I specified the version that it should be equal to 1.0, and we should use automatically encode the parameters in the authorization header. So then I'm going just to body and specifying some basic body. So when I was able to click on the send, I was able to see that, like status is equal to 0.1, it's created, and I was able then get the curl related to that specific callout. So once I get that curl, so what I did, it's I just, based on this curl, I generated my Apex class, right, which is allowing me to perform that operation with the following header content type, with the following endpoint, with the following authorization header, and with the following message. So I have specified everything in my class, And like if you guys, like previously when I did not find that button for some reason that allow me to generate that specific header, what I was able to do is I just inspected my code, right? And I just found in the Postman, here's in the networks tab, I find my request, right? In terms of request, I found parameters related to my cloud. And from there, you could get wherever you want. You could get a token, you could get authorization header, and wherever information is you require for you to perform the testing. So once it's done, and I have converted everything to Apex, I was able to post from Salesforce new articles directly to my Twitter. And the way how it was done, it's first of all, the way is in the following. So what I did is I have created the custom settings, right? Because as you could see here, we have different kind of authorization parameters like tokens, client ID, client secret, keys. So for storing that, what is, let's say, my recommendation is we could create custom metadata. And our custom metadata could contains for us some integration settings for Twitter API. So if I am going here, you could see that I'm storing, like all information from my application. And then when I'm clicking to manage records, here, for example, I have different kind of integrations. So this one, for example, here I'm storing my settings related to posting of YouTube videos, right? So that means that if I'm posting something from YouTube, right? So here I am could automatically post it to from Salesforce to Twitter. So once I have that specific settings, what I did is I actually have an object in my organization with name Twitter publications. So in terms of Twitter publication, what I have here, it's very basic information. I have fields if I would like to schedule publication for the future for Twitter. I could specify when it should be, like for example, I decided that video should be released on Twitter, for example, in 1 week. I could select it. I could specify here what is my title, what is my link, what is my description, and I could decide what kind of status of it. So let's imagine that at this moment I put it as draft, and I, for example, specify some scheduled date, or I decided just to save it for now. So I could do so. And if, for example, the time will come up, let me just put it here with that. So you could see at this moment I have 2 videos, right? 2 posts here. One of them is related to integration with Elastic. Another one is related to possibility to store reports in the Salesforce record page. So I'm deciding to introduce a new one, which is related to Salesforce integration with Sentinel. So that means that if I will change my status to publication required, and if I will click save, so that means that I have some logic which is triggering for that record to be exposed to the Twitter. And the way how I am doing so is I have actually flow trigger, and in this flow trigger I am doing very simple modifications. I have my custom object with a publication. Every time when record is created or updated, I am looking for the status. Is it publication required and the description and title are not empty? Then what I am doing, I am using after context, right? And I am using asynchronous logic to perform this kind of send logic to the Twitter. So once it's done, what I'm doing, I am invoking my Apex class and passing here basic parameters related to my record, like what is the description, title, record ID, and post link. So once it's done and the specific trigger is invoked with a synchronous action, what it's do, it should now publish that our new article to that platform. So now let me refresh the page. So you see now we have three publications here. So my new video is like available here through that specific object. So let's say it's working as expected and everything is working fine. And at this moment, let me just show you some code stuff, how it could be done for you guys to get information about it. So first of all, what I'm invoking from my post to Twitter. So from here I'm invoking my Apex class, and that Apex class name is Twitter processor. So from this Twitter processor, what I'm doing is I have a wrapper class. So here I'm just grabbing my Twitter ID, Twitter title, URL, and description. And then for the list of incoming requests that need to be published, what I'm doing is I'm actually preparing a tweet request, putting all the necessary information, And then, like once it's done and I send that specific logic to my Twitter helper, so after that, I am just updating my record status to published. Of course, it's just a draft code, and like we should take a look what is the response from the create Twitter class. But at this moment, I'm just like showing you, like some kind of example of code that we could really quickly generate for us to just touch on basics. So it's a proof of concept, right, for us to just test. But definitely in your situation, you will need to take a look what is the status of it, right? And if there will be any kind of errors, you could return it back to that specific record, right, and let the person know that there was any kind of issue related to this record synchronization to Twitter. So then what I'm doing, it's here you could see I am invoking Twitter helper to actually create a tweet. And what I am doing here in that class. So first of all, I'm invoking my custom metadata, right? I am getting it without SQL to DB, and I'm just using my YouTube settings. And then what is required for me is to get endpoint URL. So then in this create tweet method, what I'm doing is I am getting authorization header, and I'm posting to this authorization header what kind of method I will use and what is the endpoint. So then it will return me my authorization header, and the actual, let's say, look and feel of that header should be exactly the same what we were able to see as a part of the curl. So here you could see how it's look like for our situation. So then what we are doing is we are doing really simple HTTP request. We are posting to the Twitter endpoint. We are using our method post. So again, it should be in the constant, right? But wherever. We specifying content type and we specifying our authorization header. So once it's done, we are specifying request body. So in our case, we should provide a text for our tweet. So then we should use JSON serialize, and we should set the body with that serialized JSON. So after that, we just pushing our code to, our tweet to Twitter and getting response. If everything is okay, we could catch that specific response parameters. And as I mentioned, right, if you will have here like return success or return error, right? So then to the previous Twitter processor, you could just return if there will be any kind of errors. And in that manner, you will be able just to control the specific flag equal to published, to be only published really when that specific record was with the following status that it's published to Twitter. And at this moment, let us a little bit touch base on the way how we're using authorization OAuth 1.0. So first of all, as I mentioned also, so here I have my Twitter API settings. And from there, I'm getting all required information like API key, API secret, access token secret. So then I'm generating nonces. So when I generate nonce, so here I have a functionality for it, right? It's I'm just generating a random string, and that random string I'm generating from the following list of characters allowed, right? I'm just getting, like with random any chapter characters from that specific string, and I'm generating that unique string. So once it's done, I am performing specific encode of that item. So all that information you will be able to read here, right? How to actually construct it. And then I am just preparing my OAuth parameters, right? And into this OAuth params, I am putting everything: consumer key, access token. I am putting my OAuth signature method here, timestamp, right, and nonce, and all other parameters. So for all these parameters, what is required for us to actually encode them. Because if you will not encode them, if you will go here, and we will click on to there, right, and we will try to send the request, you will be able to see that we will get in that situation 401, right, which will let us know that we are not authorized just because we are not encoded parameters. And if we will encode our parameters, you could see that now status is correct. Let me just jump back to the code level where I have it. All right, so we are here. So what we are doing here is we are performing URL encode of our parameters, and we are putting everything into one specific string, right? And in terms of the sign-in key, so here are some, let's say, techniques that we need to use, right? So it should be generated based on the consumer key, consumer secret. So we're combining them together. So after that, we are generating a blob. Then based on that blob, what we are doing is we are encoding that specific blob, and only after that we are putting it into the signature. The same kind of stuff we are doing with other parameters. At the end, we are generating our authorization string, right? And that authorization string is actually something which we are returning here into our basic method for us to be able to authorize through this specific endpoint. And I think that in terms of basic implementations, that's all. So let us understand what we get, right? It's we get functionality where we directly from Salesforce could push our tweets to the Twitter. So we could define what kind of content it should be, when it could be published or when it should be published. And we have a possibility to track what kind of response it was and what kind of errors we got, right? And based on these errors and based on these responses, we could apply whatever technique for integrations that we need, like for example, reattempt or notify system administrator or whatever, and it's a topics for another video. But at this moment, you could see we did basic implementation which is required for us to do such kind of integration. And at this moment, guys, that's all. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube channel, and bye bye.